Welcome to the Christian Jobs Podcast. Today we're joined with Geoff Folland, the National Director of Power to Change, and Will Devers, the HR Officer. And we also have Christian Jobs Australia CEO Andrew Thonemann.
Yes, welcome guys. Power to Change, fascinating organisation with a long history. Tell us a little bit about it.
Power to Change is the Australian ministry for Campus Crusade for Christ International. We have 16,000 staff working in 190 countries around the world. But in Australia, next year will be our 60th anniversary. We've got about 180 team members everywhere from Perth through to Brisbane and Sydney and Melbourne. And we focus in 5 areas. We focus on working with students on campus, in schools. We work with churches and church leaders. We have disciple making in the digital space, as well as a global aid network that works with church planters and mission organisations outside of Australia. Our commitment is to help fulfil the Great Commission by making disciples of all nations.
A lot of power.
We need a lot of power.
Today we're talking about how you can use AI in the recruitment process. You guys do a lot of recruiting, especially through missionaries and self-funded people and employees as well. So I just throw to you guys, how are you currently using AI in your recruitment process?
Yeah, I think it's important to say up front that AI can be quite a polarizing topic. You know, there are people who love it and people who hate it. Our position is that we can use AI, but within the safety rails. Confidentiality is obviously a huge issue when it comes to AI and recruitment. Some of the conversations that Will and I have had recently have been things like, can we use AI to help us understand the audience that we're trying to communicate with better so we can develop an audience profile? And then can we shape the way that we're phrasing the ad, not so that it reflects our internal language, but so it actually reflects the understanding of the people we're trying to communicate with so that we attract better quality candidates.
So you actually use AI to formulate your advertisement?
Absolutely, yes. So Will has drafted some position ads and then run them past me, and I've taken it to my friendly AI, our organizational one, and tested it against a few different ideas and come back with some edits and corrections.
Yeah, wonderful. And the responses you're getting from that?
I think it helps generate a lot of interest in job ads that we're advertising. We've been doing some recruitment recently, and we've found that there's a lot of people who really resonate with what we do. Sometimes we can think a little bit too much about the inherent job requirements and what we need someone to do in their actual day-to-day, but for us, resonating with the mission is really important too.
Yeah, wonderful. There's many different ways, of course, you can use AI, and creating an advertisement is something that we are starting to see a lot of. Often when we see an advertisement that's done in AI, we think, oh yeah, they're onto it, they're doing AI. Is there other areas in the recruitment that you're using AI?
We were advertising for a senior position. We weren't sure that we had the right person in-house. A lot of our positions in Power to Change are missionary positions where people need to raise support. The point Will made about resonating with our mission is actually really critical. If people aren't passionate about what we do, then they're not going to raise the funds to join us. But trying to explain support raising to people who are outside of the organisation, it's a different model to what most people are used to. So trying to think about how do we communicate that in language that outsiders will understand has been the real challenge. And I was super encouraged that in our last position that we advertised, that we had 5 high quality candidates who in their application all communicated the fact that they understood that this was a support raised position. Where else we use AI, I've trained our AI to understand the history and the values of our organisation, our identity, what is our mission and our vision. And then we're feeding the position description into that to say, in light of that, what's this position like? I have then also taken the applications, the cover letters and the resumes, and asked AI to evaluate those positions against the profile and to identify where the candidate may be strong or weak, what issues I need to explore further, those kind of things. I think the real key for understanding how to use AI is that it never replaces human judgment. It actually can highlight to us issues to think through or areas where we need to make decisions that we might miss or be blind to in our own limited perspective.
I think you're right in terms of the human part of it, because mostly people will employ people that they like and they can resonate with. I don't think AI is quite up to that yet, of being able to choose the people that we like. Although, as you mentioned, it certainly aligns values. That's what Christian Jobs is all about in terms of finding people who have similar beliefs and faiths.
The other interesting thing for me was that out of our recent application, I said we had 5 high quality candidates. And because everyone can raise their own support, we actually ended up having multiple people apply to join Power to Change. I feel like we've recruited a leadership team, not just a leader for a position, which is just incredibly increasing our capacity in that area of our mission.
Yes, Absolutely. In putting together your position descriptions, what have you found that AI has been the most helpful in?
The really big thing that AI helps with job descriptions is just to bring clarity around the role and especially the specific responsibilities in a role. Sometimes our own language that we can use is just broad and doesn't actually go to that niche level, and it's able to summarize it. Even just reviewing job descriptions in our organization, I think it really helps all of our staff to be able to understand what am I doing in my role. And when people understand what they're doing in their role, it leads to better outcomes. If you want to be accurate in that transfer from job description to job ad and showing that to the public as well.
We've done an internal survey within our team about well-being. We've found that role clarity is one of the key factors determining our team's well-being. Where people are doing field ministry, it can be really tricky to kind of achieve role clarity because how much control do you have over what you do? But we have a standard template that we have put together for all of our missionaries. AI can help us to adapt that template to a specific role or responsibility.
What about the selection process and then the interview process? Have you been able to utilise AI in those two processes?
Yes, we have. I created the position advertisement in AI, and then I'm able to take the cover letter and the CVs and ask AI to analyse that in light of the position description that's been advertised. And every candidate has different strengths and weaknesses. Then it's able to suggest, hey, when you're interviewing them, ask this question, explore this idea a bit further, find out perhaps what their spiritual background is further, or explain what sort of training have they done. As long as I've got confidence that the AI security is at the right level, So we've got within our global organisation, Power to Change has a couple of AIs that have been approved for use, assuming we've got the settings correct, and then I'm comfortable in uploading that sort of information.
And how effective have you found that process against not having that process?
It's been great for me. When we had the 5 candidates apply for the same position, it was able to even suggest which ones would be better fits than others. As I said, we weren't limited to choosing just one. AI is a great thinking partner. That's the way I like to think about it. It accelerated the process as well. And particularly for me, with being the national director and having lots and lots of different issues, and bringing a senior leader on board is only one of many key issues I'm trying to think through. To have something help me with that is really the key advantage I found.
I think that's wonderful. And I think a lot of people will think of that and think, we must try that, because I'm not sure many people do. So I think that's great help, Geoff. I guess also that if you've uploaded the CVs and the PD, you could then generate questions for interview. Would that be right?
That's right. Although I'm not the sort of person who does an interview off the script. So if you were more of a script type interviewer, then that might be more your style. Will, I think you're probably wired to do more of the script interview.
I'm more of a detailed orientated person. I want everything written down. I want the exact order, the questions that we're going to go into. It really helps with putting a brief together, especially if I'm working with another team leader. It really helps just to be able to formulate some questions. And as Geoff was saying, just being able to think of things that we wouldn't think of from my own personal experience, my own background. And another really helpful tool, which we've kind of been experimenting with as well, is being able to transcribe an interview. Sometimes we can be really focused on taking notes. You want to listen to the person and have that active listening. When I'm taking notes, I tune out. So being able to do that allows us to not be worried about missing any points. It really helps us to devote the proper listening to a candidate who's put themselves out there, given us their valuable time.
Has AI surprised you at all in the recommendation, or is it just reinforced where you were thinking?
If it's surprised, it's the extension rather than a totally new outside of the box idea. Taking ideas that I hadn't thought about or areas that I hadn't considered before and bringing that to the party, because it's able to draw on a much broader expertise. You said this before, Andrew, that some people have talked about when you're hiring on character and competency and chemistry, right? And AI can help you with the competency side. Your background checks should be working on the character side, but the chemistry is what you really need to work on in the interview. One thing that AI has helped, because we could take on multiple people within that area of the ministry, it suggested what sort of combinations of applicants would work better and what their relative strengths and weaknesses would be, which I hadn't expected it to do.
Excellent. And I guess the whole process of using AI has saved you both time.
Absolutely. That's right. One thing I've done, which is a little bit outside the parameters of this interview, is I have uploaded the personality profiles and disc profiles and strength finders of my leadership team into AI. And then as I'm considering applicants, how do they not just fit with other new applicants, but how would they fit with the current team and where do they fit in that skills matrix.
That's extremely important in building a team, isn't it? Because like the body of Christ, you need parts working.
AI is only ever a draft. It's not the final say on anything, right? You said before that you can see people who are using AI to generate job ads. We know that there is a particular style that AI uses, right? We saw that in some of the applications as well. I use AI in a lot of different publications, and I've actually gone to the trouble of trying to train it to use my voice. And so I would suggest to people who are using AI, if the standard cover letter uses the same language as every other cover letter, that's probably not going to help you stand out. Using AI to write a clear, compelling cover letter is great, but it's got to sound like you.
Yeah, that's very good advice. One final question for you guys. Has AI ever got it wrong yet?
I think AI gets it wrong regularly. The simple example is if you're telling it to write a particular thing, it reverts to the style that it wants to use, not the style that you tell it to use. Sometimes it's very hard to keep it doing what you want it to do. It has not told us that we should employ somebody or talk to somebody or interview somebody who isn't wonderful.
I'm hoping that a lot of people tune in and listen to this podcast because I think this is the future, and the ways that you are using AI is really quite brilliant in terms of the recruiting process. I hope there's a lot of tips there for others to catch on to.
That's right. From my point of view, if it helps people land in a place where they can make their best contribution to God's mission, then that's a win.
Thank you everybody for joining us today, and thank you Geoff and Will and Andrew for giving us so much amazing insight into the world of AI. Join us for the next episode, and God bless.
Across Australia, what's